Good morning. I'd like to welcome everybody to the August 24th meeting of the Savannah-Chatham County Board of Education Audit Committee. I will call the meeting to order. And first, I'd like to introduce our superintendent, Dr. Watts. This is her first in-person audit committee meeting, so welcome. We're glad you're here.
I'm excited to be
Enjoy.
here. Thank you so much. Excited to be here. Thank you.
Okay, great. We're thrilled to have you. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
It's been properly moved and seconded that the agenda be approved. All in favor?
Aye.
Seeing none, the agenda is approved. As you know, last month, we did not quite make it to a quorum, so we have to approve two sets of minutes from the April meeting and the June meeting.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from April 27th and June 22nd. All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes are approved. Thank you. The next item is the audit plan for FY 2024.
Thank you. We have already had a discussion of the audit plan from last, and it was in our meeting minutes that you just approved. So is there any?
I think your microphone's not on.
Is it on now? There we go. Okay. All right, so the, the fiscal audit plan for 2024 was discussed in the April meeting. Is there any further discussion that you would like for us to review that? Would you like for me to conduct a quick review as well? Please provide some guidance.
I know not everybody was here last month. Does anybody have any questions about the FY '24 plan? Seeing none, it does need to get approved, right?
That is correct.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the FY 2024 audit plan as submitted. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the FY 2024 audit plan. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. The next item is the FY 2024 budget.
And
Leah?
again, this item was discussed in the last, in the June 2023 meeting as well. Both Dr. Levette prior to her leaving and as well as Dr. Watts has approved this budget from an operational standpoint. So this, it is formally in the process of our audit committee charter that you are to approve this, so we need a formal approval, please.
Okay. Are there any questions or discussions on the budget? I believe it's about halfway through your packet. It is an increase from the 23 program, but I know this has been through the budgeting process.
That is
with the
correct.
district, right?
Everything is in place at this time, as it is outlined here in these columns. The major growth was to just add some more staff development money to increase, because one, we've added an academic auditor. Before, we did not have enough money to actually go off to a conference, so we've added that annual cost. And then we also increased our dues and memberships in order to allow for us to become more members in more national organizations. Outside of auditing, we're already members of those, but we wanted to increase those that were more related to school industry that would support our district staff, and also the salary increase for the additional intern.
Okay, great. And just to be clear, we are approving a recommendation from the committee to the board. We're not approving a budget, just so everybody's clear.
That is correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the new intern in place?
Actually, I was going to update you all in the informational item. We have 3 interns, 2 from Georgia Southern and 1 from Savannah State, so we're really excited. So we will be interviewing them in hopes to have somebody in place by next month. So yes, by the next audit committee meeting, we should have somebody in that functionality.
That isn't a paid position, is it?
Yes, we're paying them.
Okay, so then I need to review the budget enough to see where that is. 15,000.
Yes.
I'm sorry that if we have 3 people who are interested in this, that we can't in some way accommodate them, but I see since it's a salaried position, that wouldn't be possible. But it certainly is wonderful to know we have some young people who are interested in the internship.
Yes, and our hopes is that maybe we can get all three, and then they would just do those functions based on what was requested from the finance and auditing department to kind of build the four programs that we are. And you can find that on the audit plan, Ms. Hall. You can see it under internships on the audit plan. You'll see that they're going to be working on some inventory related items, some game ticket reconciliation processes, inventory, athletic equipment, and so forth. So they will be taking part of a lot of financial kind of oriented activities.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Underwood, how much is this per hour for the internship?
$15 per hour.
So we are budgeting 1,000 hours, basically.
What we're going to look at right now is looking at if we can get all three. We're looking at typically about 20 hours a week is what we're looking at, is how we initially budgeted. But depending on the needs, some of these activities might take a good bit of time, some might not. So it was just hypothetically looking at giving them a month's worth of work and doing it that way. But it's not a month consecutively. So we were looking at it particularly through the whole year, but that might not work that way.
So they may work 1 month and may not work the next month? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes. And that will be in the temporary work agreement that we have with them.
And that is in consideration of when the semester ends, because typically
Yes.
they're not around in December
Correct.
or May.
Correct. And we're trying to be very cautious of that as well.
Okay. And my last question is the interview team, hiring team.
The interview team will, as we've gotten right now, would include, I think I reached out yesterday, there should be about three of us three from the finance and one from the auditing. And then we have to have an additional from HR.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
These interns, are they seniors, juniors,
They're
or
junior or senior year level,
accounting
yes.
majors?
There are accounting majors and business management majors, yes, that have applied.
And what I do appreciate is that we are paying these interns.
I certainly didn't get paid for my college internship.
Me neither.
Times they have changed.
Are there any other questions on the internship? Actually, our recommendation on the audit committee budget, actually. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded that we recommend approval of the internal audit FY24 budget. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. The next item is the review of the audit of the HVAC replacement project.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We have completed our audit of the HVAC replacement projects, and if you turn to page 2, you will see we had 5 objectives, and I want to highlight that during our review of the award of HVAC vendors that all purchasing policies and administrative regulations were followed. Then you go on to the scope of our audit. So we looked at a variety of information, but we also performed interviews, conducted surveys, and completed multiple site visits. Our field work was conducted. We started in March, and we completed our field work in June. If you look on to page 3, so some background of our audit, I will tell you that, we work with the Division of Operations for this audit, and it is a collaborative effort. So there's multiple departments within the Division of Operations that's responsible for the safety of our students and our staff. And we work with capital projects because they managed a lot of the new HVAC replacement projects. And then also our Maintenance and Operations Department. I mean, they provide a wide range of services, including preventative maintenance, which is one of the main focuses within our audit objectives. With capital projects, we identified 3 active replacement projects that they were managing for Duran, Garden City, and Myers. And during our audit, it was active, so we performed site visits. They've obtained substantial project completion in July of this year, and they were on track to complete any punch list items, and we did not identify any disruptions to the school sites during the replacement. You know, it takes a lot of, them having to do small things during the day and come in when the students are out in the afternoon, and then trying to get some of the bigger tasks done over the summer. We also reviewed one project that was completed under East Boss 3, and that was our Marsh Point Elementary School, and we did not find any exceptions with that project. Now, to adequately perform maintenance of all of our new and our existing HVAC systems, district staff must have adequate knowledge and resources to perform the required work. We had district maintenance positions that are currently focused on our HVAC maintenance activities. They all maintain an EPA certification, which is very important for refrigerants. But as you see, we also have a lot of vacant positions, to help maintain these systems. And one of those positions was actually open since January of last year. So we have contracts with outside vendors to assist with these systems as well, and they have specialized training to help maintain advanced systems with energy-saving technology. And with some of the vendors we looked at, their contracts were just renewed this year. We also identified 3 outside vendors with preventative maintenance contracts and agreements. And within these 3, 2 of them, we did find that there were we could not find any expenditures for preventative maintenance. However, they did provide additional services such as repairs, emergency maintenance, and installations. But we did have one vendor that we just started using last year, and they have been providing preventative maintenance for 6 school sites, and they have begun work on 5 of those school sites during our audit. Okay. Our audit observations, so we had 2 observations. Our first observation was for the preventative maintenance program. It was not fully implemented during the scope of our audit. It was developed in 2021 and is missing key elements to be effective. So industry standards describe key elements of a maintenance program for HVAC inspection and maintenance, which include maintenance program objectives, a maintenance plan, which needs to have the required tasks, the frequency of each task, a task schedule, documentation requirements for completion, and plan monitoring procedures, as well as inventory of equipment to be inspected and maintained. So the program provided to us by Maintenance and Operations did not have the program objectives, a task schedule, task frequencies, or any planned monitoring procedures. Under the current process, Maintenance and Operations is using school dues. So what would happen is the director would actually go in and just create a work order each day to say, hey, we need to have preventative maintenance at this school site. And you can see the description here, to perform preventative maintenance on all HVAC units. And then the district employee would go in and put what, hey, we completed, all preventative maintenance. However, we could not find any documentation to support the work that was actually conducted at the school sites. District management recognized that there is a need for more preventative maintenance and more in-depth preventative maintenance services. And you can see the shift starting in fiscal 2023 to where we were doing more preventative maintenance. So instead of just going in and doing the filter changes as we were doing years prior, going in and doing more thorough inspections and cleanings, clearing of drains, just a lot more detail. Due to a lack of staffing and knowledge of the advanced HVAC systems, the district started utilizing the outside vendor for those 6 school sites that I mentioned earlier. And this vendor has a preventative maintenance program in place. And we see that this is a huge need, so we're actually working on a bid right now that will be advertised next month to try to get more vendors so that we have, more, additional vendors in addition to our district staff as well to perform the maintenance. And then according to district management, a 2-year maintenance plan that adheres to warranty requirements will also be incorporated into construction contracts for future HVAC installations, which will be a huge benefit to the district. So we did have a recommendation to enhance the district's preventative maintenance program to include program objectives with KPI measures, a preventative maintenance schedule with task frequencies for each type of equipment, and a monitoring process for completed tasks and documentation for district staff and outside vendors. And you'll see you have the maintenance action plan that is included with the report. And management did concur with our recommendations, and you'll see they have action steps here that will be completed. The estimated timeframe is February of next year. Our next observation is for the financial, yes, sir.
I didn't want you to get too far away before I asked this. Going back to you said that we have had a vacancy that has been open since last January. Can you tell me what are the impediments? Why does it seem like we're not able to get these filled?
I'll let management speak to that.
Management, would you speak to it?
Either one of us will ask the question. Good morning. Mr.
Morning.
Audit Chair, board members, and committee members. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the audit. James May actually is serving as the interim executive director there, but Mr. May is actually my assistant. So when you talk about staffing alone, that has been a challenge for us. We're consistently recruiting, but we are challenged with finding those highly qualified individuals to come in and work for us. And that's why you see and you heard how we are now moving towards working with more of our contractors. We're contracting out those services because certainly it is our responsibility to ensure that those systems are functioning at all times. And with our new construction and with our renovated HVAC systems, we're also adding a 2-year, as you also heard us talk about. So we're identifying those methods to make sure that we can continue to have those systems functioning. So we are aggressively recruiting. We're going to continue to recruit. We're looking at some of our staff that's in the maintenance department that has some of the skill sets that we can enhance and have them in some of those positions. But I think we're about 25 vacancies down in maintenance right now, but our processes are continuing to function. We're continuing to have preventive maintenance, even if we have to use it through outside contractors.
Well, Ms. Kegler, isn't it much more expensive to have to go to vendors than if we had our own? I'm thinking. So.
Yeah. But, and certainly we balance that, but always putting the needs of the systems and students and staff.
Are we recruiting nationally, or are we just kind of looking right in Savannah and that's it?
Because what we do as a part of our process and operations when we're recruiting is that we look at those agencies and those organizations that we're affiliated with and making sure that we're posting those vacancies there. So we actually had someone join our staff that's going to be responsible for helping assisting will be a collaborative effort between HR and operations, just the sheer size of the division and the number of employees and the specialized areas that we need to focus in when we're recruiting.
Can I ask a question? I was thinking when we talk about, when we're talking about the need, I was thinking about internally, are we doing anything kind of professional development or encouraging our people to go to school, get the certifications, so we'll have our own in-house folk?
And you heard, and you may not have been close enough to the mic. That is exactly what we're doing. We are vetting the internal staff to make sure if we can up, and most of them do attend training. We just had a group that completed some specialized carrier training. I think it was about 4 of our technicians attended that, so we're working to upgrade that skill set, but certainly they have the first opportunity, and that's a part of their professional development plan. We're actually working on one young man now that has the skills. He attended Savannah Tech, so we're working to upgrade him as well. Yeah, but I think we had about 4 that just attended a specialized carrier training for those new units that we are installing in the new building. So when you, on both ends of the spectrum, with new schools, with highly technical computerized systems, and then you still have some schools that are 50 and 60 years old. So this is where we kind of finding ourselves. We still have to maintain those existing seasoned systems, which require more finding parts to be able to support those systems, and then the highly technical systems that's out there now. So we're working to bridge that and bring it together.
That was actually going to be my questions. I guess great minds think alike, because I know we're very good with professional development for certified staff. So I was just wondering to what extent do we provide it for our classified staff? But you answered the
And
question.
what I'll do is I'll get to Dr. Watts. Some of those training sessions that staff has attended already, like I know the first one right off of the top of my head was the carrier one that I know a minimum of 4 attended. There's another one in Cochran, Georgia that they attended. So when those opportunities are available, we certainly afford it to them because it's only going to enhance the district and make sure that our equipment lasts longer.
I know Dr. Lewis's hair would be on fire if she heard me say this, but we may have to start looking at a pathway to grow our own from the level of the interns we're talking about, and grow our own pathways so that 10 years from now we have, the people we need. What you're saying is that it's not anything that we could change that would make a big difference. It's mainly just that the people are not there and are not.
And we're working because it would be my preference that we had our own staff. But in the interim, like I said, we outsource a lot of those services. And we had a real robust preventive maintenance program with one of the vendors last summer. And when you have triple-digit weather like we're having, when we're trying to replace systems, what used to be summer school, when we were in summer school, that timeline is shrinking. So when you see us managing and replacing HVAC systems, oftentimes it's over a 2-year period. It's a phased process because we understand that we're here to support the instruction on academic process. So it takes just a little longer. Unfortunately, we have to phase it because we have to make sure that we're not having a negative impact on instruction.
So if I can just point out, Mrs. Hall, because as I'm listening to some of your questions, I'm feeling the same way and thinking the same thing. On the audit report, it indicated that the position that's been offered since January of 2022, the pay range is $19.03 to $26.11 per hour. But the average hourly rate for an HVAC technician in Savannah is $27.46.
And I didn't want to go there today. I tried to skirt around it as best I could.
I got you, but your last question just tipped me over the edge of what else can we do
That's
for
right.
internal?
That's
Because
right.
if we're paying $85 an hour to $213 an hour,
Yeah.
I think that's the answer for how we get that position
Yeah,
filled.
because if we're giving Georgia Power and these vendors that money,
Yes.
we could be, but then you know that, so I that's why I really didn't say it, because I said Ms.
Yeah.
Taylor knows the importance of paying people competitively.
Exactly. And if I'm in order, Dr. Watts said that she's going to be having a compensation plan, a compensation study conducted, but we continuously work with our HR division, and when we see those vacancies that have been consistently vacant, we appeal for an upgrade to those positions.
Yeah, I would just add that mechanical systems are typically somewhere around 20-25% of a building cost. They are the ballgame in terms of O&M, and finding mechanical technicians in or outside of the public or private sector is going to be very tough, and you're not going to do it at $27 an hour, not in this market, not with that giant thing out there in Bryan County.
That's right, coming on.
And last week, just the New Hampstead incident, we were so fortunate that it was the high school that we had to adapt, and I think you, Dr. Watts, your team did a beautiful job on that. But if it had been the elementary that had to be dispersed and all, that would have been a real headache. So these are things that are, we see coming to roost as we speak, so.
And if I might add, one of the reasons why we did not have to dismiss the K-8 is because they have a solar farm.
See?
So they were able to tap into the solar and some of the other systems. And I have to give public credit to the city. When we called and needed their generators, they were more than happy to avail those to us as well. But the decision was made to go ahead and dismiss the high school. But when we talk about those solar farms and implementing them, it paid off for us during that time period with the K-8 building.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. Seeing any other discussion? Yes, ma'am.
There's more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. But I also want,
We cut her off.
I wanted to add on too, speaking of the training, I will tell you, I pretty much talked to everyone when I was doing my interviews, and they were super excited about the summer training, the 4 people that she mentioned. So they were excited to be going to more training. And like when they complete these projects, you know, Georgia Power, it's part of their work agreement to have them come on and observe. And so there's additional training they get there. And then I know there's a lot of plans in place, you know, because you have to go through to become factory certified on some of these products. So I know that the staff was super excited about the training opportunities. All right, so our next observation for financial controls, we have 2 components with that. So the first is timeliness of purchase orders. So we did find that 75% of the purchase orders were entered after the vendors had completed their work. 5 of these purchase orders exceeded 100 days, with the highest surpassing 1 year. So, you know, the procedure is you're supposed to put in a purchase order before you go in and you know, before you're reaching out to any vendor to request a service, order anything. But exceptions do occur. We have emergency exceptions, and HVAC is one of those exceptions, but they should be limited. And if steps are not in place for these emergency requests, there's increased risk with purchasing controls, duplicate payments, or even payment delays. So we have our, if you look at the management action plan, we have our recommendation to establish a required timeframe and develop monitoring controls for emergency purchases. And management has concurred with this recommendation, and they have steps in place to address the recommendation, and with the current estimated completion date of March of 2024. And then our second component to that is budget account lines. So going into this, you know, trying to determine, okay, well, how much is spent for preventative maintenance? How much is spent for regular maintenance? Well, we found that there's no dedicated account lines set up for preventative maintenance. And as, you know, we've talked about, you know, we're putting in all these new systems. I believe there's like, what, 16 that's scheduled with $20 million just for the construction. And it's important that we have money for the preventative maintenance put away. I will tell you each year that there's money that's allocated from the general fund to facility repairs. And again, this past year, we've really, you know, acknowledged, hey, we need more money for maintenance, deferred maintenance. So you can see that there's been an increase in that. But it's also important that we have that dedicated account line for preventative maintenance, because then management can monitor the preventative maintenance costs impact to corrective maintenance costs. So there's more monitoring that can be put in place there. And then dedicated funding for preventative maintenance will help management identify any future budget needs in addition to monitoring these costs. So we had one recommendation for this area to develop dedicated account lines for preventative maintenance and to monitor costs and identify budget needs. Management concurred with this recommendation as well, with steps that will be in place by March of next year. Any questions?
Mr. Moss?
Just a comment. This is, and thank you for your work. It's great work. This is sort of a note to our board as we go into the budget process that we're going to be doing earlier, that we budget accordingly. You know, if we need to budget more money for preventative maintenance, and again, I think that's going to be solved because we're starting our budgeting process a lot earlier this year. So looking forward to getting realistic numbers and taking care of this.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to remind everyone that this East Block 4 initiative, we're just dealing with one, or no, I'm sorry, two, Bloomingdale and Windsor, two new schools. The rest of the money we have dedicated to our infrastructure. So am I incorrect that money from the East Bloss initiative is helping with this, and it's not just depending on our general fund?
Yes, you're correct, if I'm in order. We are replacing HVAC systems in roofs as a part of East Block, but I think what the conversation is in reference to deferred maintenance and maintenance upkeep. The number referenced here, the $1.5 million, is what comes from the general fund, but that's system-wide to maintain those systems. When I talked about those buildings that are still 50 and 60 years old that require upkeep, you'll see us replacing HVAC systems at a larger, higher number as a part of East Block.
Any other comments? Yeah, I would just add that I think often when we detail our budgets, if you so often, oh, we didn't spend the money, we're doing better. But if we have a preventative maintenance budget and then we don't spend it, then management can come back and go, whoa, 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 boys and girls, what did we not do and what's going to break at the most inopportune triple-digit day? So I wholeheartedly support that recommendation. I think that's a great idea. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the report.
I'll move to adopt.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we adopt we accept the audit of the HVAC replacement projects. All in favor?
Aye.
The report is adopted. That includes all of our action items today. We do have two informational items, so I'll turn it over to Leah.
All right, thank you. The first item that you should have is Board Policy CD. This is just an informational item that's provided to you for knowledge as to what has already processed through as the first read and is set for the second read adoption in September of 2023. The next item is the status of the internship. We've kind of already discussed this as well. I just wanted to update you that we had received those the 3 applicants that have come in, and our goal is to start the interview process next week. Therefore, we can try to get them started after the Labor Day time period in order for them to fulfill the obligation within their semester time period.
Thank you. Are there any comments on the informational items?
I just want to say, I'm happy that we're getting the internship. I'm trying to figure out, are we doing our civic duty and helping, in higher ed get kids in, or do we have a shortage of staff and that's why we're doing it? I'm trying to understand what the push for the intern is. I'm very happy about it, but what's the source?
I appreciate this question. So when the discussion was to encourage the internships, we did not have the open senior internal auditor position, because typically the design is the senior director, the academic auditor, 2 senior internal auditors, and then the internal audit assistant. At the time of the discussion of the internship, we did not have an open vacancy for the senior internal auditor. We had Tiffany, and then there was just the director with the internal audit assistant. But as of this new fiscal year, we do have a vacancy for the senior internal auditor position that we plan to put into place after we do the internships interviews as well. We plan to open that up and to fill that vacancy.
I see.
I would like to follow up regarding the work time that the interns will be working, because you said they could work 1 month, they may not work another month, and I just want you to, and whoever will be selecting, be aware that most time college students, they want internships, and this being a paid internship, so they will be getting money. and then there will be a break in the funds that they will get because they may not work another month. So you may run into a challenge with getting someone to accept this internship because they want to work continuously because they will need the funds. So I just want to bring that to the table to make you aware of not working on a continuous basis may be a challenge for finding someone to agree to be an intern.
Right, and I appreciate that, Ms. Gamble, for bringing that, and that is why we're taking into consideration that instead of, depending on their needs, we want to build it around them. We would like to have as many internships as we can, so if we can get all three, that would be great, because if we find out that, I only want to work this many hours, we'll work with them, and then maybe one of the other two could possibly fulfill. Because like I said, we have 4 non-audit and audit services we would like for them to work on, and depending on their needs, fitting around their schedule, because, college classes aren't like what they used to be where you start at 8 and end at 3 kind of college classes these days. We want to make sure that we can fulfill their needs as well as fulfilling the district's.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, as I recall, as being, in school, when you have to have internship hours, if a student needs a certain amount of hours, but you're only, allowed to offer them a certain number, how would that have an impact on a student? Maybe Mrs. Lane can help with that, because I know a lot of times they are required to have so many hours, whether it's paid or not, in order to graduate. So if it's inconsistent with the work agreement, every other month or so, how would you all be able to accommodate that particular student to obtain those hours?
Now, at Savannah State University, it depends on whether this internship is associated with the class. If it's associated with a class, then yes, of course, there are hour requirements and certain requirements that must be met. But if it's just an internship that the student is not associated with a class, then there are no hour requirements associated with it. So this kind of depends.
Mr. Moss, do you know, are all of our internships paid internships?
I do not know that.
Who might?
The head of HR is right.
I was
Yes, good question. The majority of them are. I mean, we typically don't want anyone doing an internship that's not paid. But we do have some situations where people are requesting just to do something that's not truly an internship, but to help out in certain things because they're trying to get hours. In those situations, it might. But if we're planned like we're doing this one, it's going to be paid. And we have in technology, we have them in the different areas of the organization where we do that consistently.
I would love to see that if we could possibly pay our interns. I would not want to be that intern who isn't getting paid if the rule usually is that they do. And I've seen, I'm not going to bring any names up, but I've seen some of our interns really, in fact, Ms. Jennings was telling me one of our interns is doing an outstanding job. I'd just like us to look at that, Mr. Ray, if it's possible that,
Yes, I mean, as an organization, we don't.
Intern with the district, you will be paid.
Yes, ma'am, we can do that. But what I'm saying is, as a district, we don't want people to be perceived as working and not being paid. It's rare that would happen, that they wouldn't get paid. That's what I'm saying. But I will look into that and make sure. But yes, even the example that you just gave, that person's getting paid. So we want to make sure everybody's getting paid, because we don't want them in any issues with a conflict with work, actual work being done in intern. But we want to make sure that people are getting paid. It's just that sometimes we don't know, for a small course or small practice, that somebody comes in just doing something. That's what I meant by that. But yes, if they're working, we're going to make sure we pay them, because that is a fundamental process that we want to make sure is done from human resources.
Thank you. And I just add that the carryover in the approved plan is human resources activity. So we'll make sure we can add that to the audit and detail that out, right? Okay. Well, we've successfully reached the end of our agenda, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.